I believe in science. It explains the world through observation and experimentation.
Science, yes. But what of imagination? Isn't it the heart of discovery?
Chapter 5. The Error in Science. The error in science is taking what is perceived to be something that can be accurately measured without first understanding the nature of the perceiver. It doesn't matter how many of agreeers there are about the nature of the object being measured if the agreement is taking place in the same boat. It might be suggested that with a common instrument, they will agree on a measurement that is both accurate and reliable from the standpoint of being in the same boat. My contention is that scientists rely on their own biases in ways that are no different than politicians or religious persons, and in effect, see what they want to see. How can scientists disagree with other scientists if science is about objectivity, skepticism, and empiricism? Well, I have a story for that.
Boatloads of science. Kissed.
The scientists came from distant lands to study the anomaly. Anomalies typically come in all shapes and sizes. Therein lies the trouble. It's difficult to determine how to measure the shapes and sizes of anomalous entities. That is what makes these things anomalies. And that is precisely what makes the scientists exuberant, giddy, and downright enraptured to study such happenings as they occurred in nature. Any scientist worth his or her sodium chloride would jump at the chance to make the unknown known, or to make the unclassified classified, or just to give their arbitrary birth name to something that will have no use for the name. This anomaly of particular interest was a rather large island alone in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, moving at the speed of a race car. It's hard to imagine this island went undiscovered for so long. But I guess everything is hard to imagine until someone goes and does it. This island was imagined, finally. And now it was being observed. The scientists, fearing the size and speed of the island, anchored their boats from different vantage points miles away from the island. Their years of academic study, perfecting basic scientific principles, and ironing out complex formulas, as well as the numerous inventions they have built to capture with precision the movements of the natural world. All of this effort has finally led them to this boat, in this spot in the Atlantic, to study an anomalous, racing island. Every night, after collecting data, they return with their measurements to the nearest pub at an inhabited island, miles from the racer, as they come to call the island in study, to discuss the day's findings. For weeks, these boatloads of scientists have worked and drank. Each night, after a few pints, a ritual of arguments ensued. One boat of researchers had agreed upon the daily calculated speed of the island. Another boat was absolutely sure of their calculations of the island's speed. The only problem being, the boats did not agree with one another.
What do you mean it's going faster with the passage of time?
One crewman yelled at the leader of another boat.
Clearly, the racer has begun to decrease in speed.
The racer, as it had come to be known, was one of the few things the scientists could agree on. It's not uncommon for scientists to produce clever names for their projects.
It is certainly not clear to me that your presumption is correct.
One leader barked.
The speed of the island has most definitely been increasing. Maybe, from your location at sea, your instruments lack the precision needed for proper detection.
The leader added this last little bit, not as a figurative bitch slap across the other crewman's metaphorical bow, but because only just last week, when his crew was in the light fog, he had momentarily questioned his own team's finding for the day. At that moment, in the midst of the scientist's slurry sangria squabbling, an old beer drinker at the bar joined the conversation in a slightly less slurry tone. He offered his few cents.
It's because y'all were in each other's place last week. Every couple of weeks, the magnetism gets wonky out here. Something about the lunar cycle or some shit. I don't know, and it don't matter. But what I am goddamn sure about is you guys and all your knowledge has been designed by yourselves for one thing: to detect yourselves. The only problem is you're using it for looking out there.
The men from the crews, from each of the boats, looked around at one another, and for the first time since their arrival, they agreed on something other than their clever island nickname.
This fella at the bar, drinking beer, has most certainly lost his fucking marbles.
And if the beer drinker had only set out to bring these scientists into their first and only complete agreement about their observations, not only with their teams, but also agreement across boats, well, he'd done it. But he didn't pay his tab, and he didn't get up from the bar, and he didn't care that a pub full of researchers were glaring at him in a condescending and mocking style one could only learn in a prestigious graduate school. He simply continued with his uneducated lecture.
What if the island isn't moving at all? What if you guys are in a current that's moving around the island?
Before they could respond, or before they could begin to laugh off his questions, he put some cash on the bar, took one last swaller of his beer, and casually left the pub. I say casually because, although he was drunk, he didn't stumble. It was more like he made this trip from the bar stool to the door in a state of inebriation enough times to walk in a manner as if there was a special path designed for his feet. He was gone. And as expected, the scientist roared with laughter. The next day, eager to publish and eager to put an end to the nonsense spewed by the other boats, but with slight pounding in front of their heads and a sneakier knocking in the recesses of their minds, they loaded up and set sail for the racer. One boat arrived and dropped anchor. One researcher peered through his scientific-looking scope and saw the racer, and as usual, it was obvious. There was movement. But what was moving? That was his first thought. And the thought that immediately followed was, that fucking drunk idiot got into my head. How can he understand anything about nature? How can you know nature if you don't understand her laws? And how can you understand her laws if you don't understand the science? The fundamental ground with which we uncover and detect the laws of nature. A lot of thoughts for someone with a hangover, right? But this is a scientific mind. It has a lot of thoughts, regardless how many drinks have been consumed.
The anchor is down. How could we be moving?
He thought to himself. Well, he thought it to himself, but he'd actually thought it loud enough to be heard by his assistant.
That's right, idiot. Anchors keep the boat from moving. Guess we didn't drop it fully. In what year of your doctoral program at the University of Dumbasses did they teach you that anchors keep boats from moving?
The assistant said. But now the researcher held an interesting thought. This thinking was only to himself.
What if I'm wrong? What if we're wrong? What if the anchor is down, but not keeping us in one place? What if we, the boats, are moving, and the racer is in fact motionless? That fucking drunk idiot is now in my head.
It might need to be mentioned that the drunk idiot was probably just now getting out of bed to take his own boat out for a little fishing trip. After all, the weather was perfect for it. And it might also need to be mentioned that the drunk idiot probably didn't have anyone getting in his head during his trip, especially not himself.
This is the classical error in science. If we all agree on the measure, the method, and the results, then it must be correct. But we're still not accounting for the one variable that is fundamental to this assumption: that it's impossible to test its validity ourself, our own senses, our perceptions, our conceptions. Whether we like it or not, these color our science. These bias our measures, our methods, and our outcomes. Notable scientists have proven that the world depends on the senses, not the other way around. But this is not a course or pause for a boatload of scientists when there's a consensus. Even when the evidence that past scientific findings have demonstrated empirical validity in their measures, methods, and outcomes, and have resulted in unanimous consensus, and yet, eventually, all findings will be disproved. Does this not hold that all scientific findings are tentative? Sure, they might be pragmatic, but they're still tentative. This is the nature of science and its findings.